Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining me. Today, we are going to be talking about something that I get a lot of emails about, something that I get a lot of comments on my social media posts, Facebook, Instagram. People are always asking me about this, and I think it's something that I need to address because it's something that I went through early on when I first found cultured foods with my daughter, and I found a lot of help for it, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about it, and I want to kind of address it. And what we're going to be talking about is, symptoms for irritable bowel syndrome and people who have dramatic health symptoms. And they've developed a special diet for this. There's some researchers that have developed a special diet for this, but I want to address it and I want to talk about it so you guys have some understanding so you can make better choices. And it's called the FODMAP diet, and they've developed it for people who experience a lot of pain when they eat. And we all know that food choices are, drastically impact our health. And so it's no surprise that diets are continuously developed for different health conditions and symptoms. IBS and SIBO suffers, and SIBO is small intestinal bowel overgrowth, which means there's a lot of overgrowth of bacteria in a place that it doesn't belong. And it causes a lot of suffering in people, and they have a difficult time finding things to eat that don't flare their symptoms. And prior to finding cultured foods, my daughter suffered, she was about 16 from IBS, leaky gut, everything she ate hurt, and I was on a mission to help her repair her gut and her symptoms. And, every time she ate, she had pain, and there was really no way for her to live, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And so I started to really do a lot of research. And she had a lot of sinusitis problems, so she had taken a lot of antibiotics. And I think that was at the basis of what really caused her symptoms to flare, because she lost a lot of the good bacteria that protected the lining of her gut. And so her gut started to leak food particles and into her bloodstream and into her system that caused a lot of pain, which is, what they call leaky gut. And they diagnosed her as IBS. And I really didn't know what to do about it, but it really led me to really discover cultured foods and their ability to repair the gut and restore health. And one of the things that has been developed for sufferers, and this happened way after I healed my daughter, helped her overcome this, but they developed this FODMAP diet for IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and SIBO. And Professor Peter Gibson at the Monash University in Melbourne, he was the one who developed this special diet. He did it to help alleviate symptoms of IBS and to ease discomfort. And when it comes to this FODMAP diet, avoiding a lot of foods that cause symptoms, and I want you to really listen to this, avoiding foods that cause the symptoms helps, but it only temporarily relieves the problem. And I found that with my daughter. It doesn't heal the problem that caused this to begin with. And while this diet does reduce gas, bloating and cramping and pain, you have to avoid a list of otherwise beneficial foods. And some of them are like fruits, grains, dairies, veggies, forever if you don't heal your gut. And it doesn't really fix the underlying problem. So new findings by researchers are pointing to these possible drawbacks with this diet. And they say, I'm quoting from them, there may be potential detrimental effects of diet in the long term due to potential changes to the gastrointestinal microbiome. Future researchers should focus on the relevance of changes to the microbiome and ways to liberalize these dietary restrictions. And I agree with that, because you need to find so many times in our lives, whether it's, the medicine that we get or the drugs that we get, we're really just masking a problem. We're not fixing the problem. We're just kind of covering it over with a Band-Aid. But there's a reason that you have these symptoms. There's a reason that you get sick. Besides, if you're breaking a bone or something like that, that's an altogether different type of illness. But when you suddenly develop symptoms of IBS, or you've got gas and you've got bloating, then something is signaling to you that something is out of order. And that's something that you need to pay attention to. So there's a lot of foods that you need to restrict just to ease some pain, but it doesn't fix the underlying problem if you don't rebuild your gut. And let me explain more about this. Okay, so FODMAP is an acronym that stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. These are scientific terms used to classify groups of carbohydrates that sometimes can cause gas, bloating, and digestion disruption in sensitive individuals. So, your gut bacteria uses these types of carbs as a food source, and they'll produce a little bit of hydrogen gas. Okay, and so here's where the problems come in. Without the proper gut flora, they can end up fermenting in the intestines, leading to signs of irritable bowel syndrome or small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, SIBO, and you'll get symptoms that are common to diarrhea, bloating, gas, abdominal pain, distension, and heaviness. Now, here are the types of food that contain these carbohydrates that can cause this distress and bring about symptoms in those suffering with symptoms of IBS and SIBO. So, oligosaccharides are things like wheat, rye, legumes, fruits and vegetables such as garlic and onions. Disaccharides are foods like milk, soft cheeses, yogurt. Lactose is the main carb in disaccharides. Okay, and then the other group, monosaccharides, is fruits, including figs, mangoes, sweeteners such as honey and agave nectar, and fructose is a huge one, is the main carbohydrate with that one. And polyols is certain fruits and vegetables that include things like blackberries and lychees, as well as things like sugar alcohols that are like in gums. There's all different kinds of sugar alcohols they put in different foods now, and those can really wreak havoc on you. So your gut is like a rainforest. So let's think of it like that. And it contains thousands of different microbial species. And many of them are known to us, but there's a lot that we don't even know about. And if it's destroyed or diminished, it needs to rebuild the diversity to thrive again. Adding probiotic-rich foods like cultured vegetables and kefir help to rebuild the flora, but it needs to be done with caution since some of these foods are high on the FODMAP diet. The same researchers that developed the FODMAP diet emphasize the need to eventually remove the restrictions on this diet. This means introducing high FODMAP foods while healing your gut. They also emphasize the need to focus on the inner ecosystem of the gut. So let me explain it to you this way. This helped me when I was trying to explain it to somebody one day. I said, think of yourself as a park ranger for your gut. And if your gut microbiome is healthy, you want to continue to support it with beneficial microbes like cultured foods and also prebiotic foods that will enhance the flora and inhibit the growth of pathogenic microbes and fungi by limiting their food sources. So you're going to have a lot of good bacteria that's going to keep everything in balance. And in this way, you build the strength of that ecosystem and you really helps you to avoid any major disruptions that can happen. For instance, antibiotics or foods and drugs that can harm that balance. If you're a park ranger of your gut ecosystem and it needs some repair, you first want to get as much information about what's going on in your gut so you can help rebuild it and really contain those problematic symptoms that are, causing a lot of distress in your life. So first thing you want to do is ask yourself questions. You kind of want to be a little Sherlock Holmes and figure out what's going on. So first you want to think, has my gut flora been altered with antibiotics, or have I been having a diet of overly processed foods that are high in sugars and white flours that harm it? What foods are the species of my gut relying on? And how stable is my system? Am I having a lot of bloating and gas or abdominal pain when I eat? And chances are, if you are, then your symptoms are telling you need extra support. So let me tell you a list of things that can harm your microbiome. Number one, highly processed or packaged foods that are high in sugars and synthetic vitamins. They don't have a lot of nutrients for the body. They don't have fiber in them. And they really don't give your body what they need. And that's why so many people overeat them. I mean, have you ever wondered why you can sit down and eat a bag of potato chips, but you can't eat a bag of apples? I mean, there's there's not a lot of nutrients in them. You can eat a box of cereal, but there's no way that you're going to eat, a whole thing of bananas. You're not going to eat 7 bananas. You're just not going to do it because you're going to get full before you do. And that's because there's not a lot of nutrients in those types of processed foods. And so your body just keeps eating and overeating because it's looking for the nutrients that it needs. And the fiber is what feeds the microbiome. And without it, you overeat it. And they're really, really hard on the microflora. Number 2, antibiotics. Now, I'm not against antibiotics. I think they're necessary in some situations, but only take them when absolutely necessary because they really wipe out the good and the bad bacteria. Number 3, sugars and artificial sweeteners. Sugars are super hard on your gut flora. And it's really interesting when you eat a lot of sugar, you crave a lot of sugar because you make microbes that crave sugar and keep you on this addictive cycle of craving them and wanting to eat them. They raise your blood sugar. They give you high crashes and lows with your blood sugar. And it's just really hard on the body. So you want to avoid taking a lot of sugars. Artificial sweeteners are really just as hard on you. They can destroy some of your gut flora, and I've seen that again and again with some of these artificial ones. There's some good ones that are non-sweeteners, monk fruit, stevia, those are good. But the other ones that are out there, and there's so many of them, some of them can even destroy the gut flora by 50%. So you want to stay away from artificial sweeteners that are in sodas and pops because they're not good for you anyway. Number 5, antacids and acid blockers. Now, these will give you temporary relief from things like reflux and some gas and bloating, but they are super hard on your gut flora. They change it, they destroy some of it, and it's becoming a really big problem because people pop them like candy, and they're very hard on you. So avoid them. The other thing is refined oils, such as soybean, cotton, and cottonseed. I don't want to talk to you about oils. Oils can be really, really hard on you, almost harder than carbohydrates because they store in your cells. They make up the cells of your body. And if your cells of your body are made with some of these hydrogenated oils or some of these oils that can go rancid, then your cells break down. They don't function well. They're not fluid. Good oils are really important. Avocado oil, olive oil, there's coconut oil. They are all so much better for your body than some of these oils that can go rancid. Soybean, cottonseed, canola, they're not good for you. And they make up part of your body and they stay with you, whereas carbohydrates get burned off. But these do not. They stay in your body. So you want to make sure of everything in your diet, you really have good oils. Another thing is anti-inflammatory drugs such as aspirin, ibuprofen. Those are really hard on your gut flora as well. They can even make your stomach bleed if you have too many of them. So, take those as little as possible. Refined flour products, which goes under the category of highly processed or packaged foods. That's another thing that really is not good for you. If they're highly refined, and that's all you're eating, then your microbes are starving. They're not getting the fiber they need. And it can really change your microbes to make you crave that too. So it's hard on you. Now, when we take antibiotics, many of the numerous species die, the good and the bad. But it's really difficult to know what is happening inside our gut. So taking antibiotics only when absolutely necessary is really, really important to keep your whole gut microbiome in balance. And when you take an antibiotic, and I'm not against them, I think they're needed in some places, but when you do take one, you need to be aware of what's happening. It's kind of like starting a forest fire, setting off a bomb in your gut, killing both the good and the bad bacteria, so it wipes out everything. And the balance of bacteria of the gut is really disturbed. And the good guys are diminished, and this leaves room for opportunistic pathogens to overpopulate and take over territory that was specifically designed for the good guys, and then chaos ensues. Candida wants to take over because it's got all this room to grow and multiply because the good bacteria is gone, and then it's really hard to get it back into balance. So if you do have to take an antibiotic, make sure you take cultured foods with it. And I've got a whole article on that and a podcast to keep those opportunistic pathogens from taking over your gut. So you really need those probiotic-rich foods and prebiotics to reestablish the gut flora, but in specific amounts. And I talk about that in one of my other podcasts. in my experience in helping my daughter who had IBS and countless other people who have contacted me, adding fermented foods in certain amounts and a few other things really helped her heal her IBS and leaky gut and really sped her on her way to health. It took a while. It wasn't a quick fix, it was several months, and then it was a year to completely heal. But within a month, her stomach quit hurting, and within 3 months, she started to really be able to eat other foods that she'd been so allergic to. And within a year, she was completely healed. So you need to proceed with caution, and I want to tell you about specific amounts that we had and what you can do, because everybody's individual. So you're going to have to experiment on yourself with your different food triggers because everybody's got different degrees of this. And, my daughter had terrible food allergies as well. This kind of coincided with her IBS. And it was messages that were being sent to her from her body telling her that in her environment, that her body was wounded, that it needed repair. And what we did to heal my daughter's gut was to have small amounts of cultured food at every single meal because it helped her digestion. And I'm actually writing a blog about that this week about digestion and enzymes and the things you need to help you digest your food, because you aren't just what you eat, you are what you digest and what your body breaks down in order to digest and give you the nutrients you need. So what we did was we had about 1 to 2 tablespoons of juice from cultured veggies at her lunch and dinner, and a few ounces of coconut water kefir or kombucha, which really helped ease her symptoms. And she usually had kefir for breakfast, usually a smoothie, and she had kombucha with her meals. Coconut water kefir, something she had in between meals. But when she did that, it helped her digest all her food and get more nutrients from it, because without those foods, she was having a terrible time digesting her foods. So now, when you have some of these symptoms, some of these are high on the FODMAP diet, but we have a way to do it that's going to make it easier for you. So keep listening, because I'm going to get into that in a little bit. You really need to experiment to see what you can handle, but your gut really needs these microbes to repair itself, or otherwise you're going to be limited to so many few foods for the rest of your life. So even if you can only find one cultured food that doesn't trigger you, try to have it at every time you eat, even if it's just a spoonful or a few ounces, because it will help you digest your foods you're eating and also flood your body with these much needed probiotic microbes that can heal your gut. And here's the list of food and supplements that can help you in the specific amounts I recommend that will rebuild your microbiome. And remember, whenever I do these podcasts, I always have an article with it too. So you can read this and go look at it if you don't want to listen to it. You can go to my website and look at all my podcasts. I'll try to put the link description below, but it will give you all the resources you need to have it written out for you, as well as just listening. Now, remember, you got to listen to your body, because everybody's going to be different. And it is going to be a journey for you, but it's going to teach you so much, and you're going to really start to believe in your own wellness. And that's really what I think the gift of having disease is about, because when you start to overcome these things and you listen to your body and you listen to your symptoms, it really changes the way you view the world, view food, view your body, and it really helps wellness become the norm in your life instead of just the exception. Okay, so let me get into this. Okay, cultured kraut. Sauerkraut made from green cabbage is high on the FODMAP diet, so it can cause symptoms in people. And that is because of the high amount of mannitol, which is a sugar alcohol in sauerkraut. It belongs to the polyol group, which within the food FODMAP acronym. However, red cabbage that is fermented is low on the FODMAP diet. And it really does help people a lot, because it doesn't seem to have the same amount of mannitol in it. So different cabbages have different carbohydrate compositions, and they've just ferment a little bit in different ways. And red cabbage might be really more well tolerated than green cabbage. And 1 spoonful with a meal would be recommended. I think on the FODMAP they say two tablespoons, but just see how you respond to it. The Monash University who developed this tested red cabbage and found that in low FODMAP, it is a 1/2 cup serving, that's quite a lot. I would start with a spoonful, but it does contain moderate amounts of fructans at 1 cup of serving. So I would keep it down to a few tablespoons. They recommend a half cup, which is fine. But in the beginning, I would start with much less because you're flooding your body with billions of probiotics and you're not going to be used to that. So it's going to want to clean house. So you want to be careful. And I would recommend starting with a small amount. I have a yummy red cabbage and ginger recipe, and ginger is good for you. It has been given a green light by the Monash University, who developed the FODMAP diet, and it tastes really good with red cabbage. So if you would like that recipe, head on over to my website, and you can type in FODMAP, and you'll see the article, and you'll see the recipes on there. And we'll also put the link in the descriptions on YouTube below. Now, kefir is another one. It contains over 50 probiotic species of good bacteria and yeast. It's 99.9% lactose-free, and lactose is very high on the FODMAP for disaccharides. But since fermentation removes almost all of the lactose out of the milk for kefir, it's a really good probiotic-rich food to add to your diet. Goat's milk kefir is even lower on the FODMAP diet and is loaded with so many health benefits because goat's milk has prebiotics in it. And you have a protein in most cow's milk called alpha-1 casein that many people are allergic to. But not all cows produce the A1 casein. So milk from A2 cows produce none of the inflammatory effects that A1 casein does. And you'll notice that at many of the grocery stores and health food stores, they sell A2 milk now. It is absolutely delicious. It makes wonderful kefir. And I would highly recommend that. It's in cartons, and it'll say it has big words A2 on it, and it works really well. So if you have some allergies, that might be a great choice for you. Another alternative is coconut kefir. Then this is the milk kefir, which is low FODMAP and gives you a lot of probiotics as well. And just start with a few spoonfuls at a meal and see how you do. You can have more if you don't have a reaction. But having a cultured food at every meal will really help rebuild your microflora, and especially kefir, because kefir has so many enzymes and probiotics in it. And the digestion, it will help you with your digestion enormously. It was a huge factor in helping my daughter to heal. She had it every day. It made a huge difference. And if you go to this article on my website, I have how to make kefir, how to make goat's milk kefir, how to make coconut kefir. I have all of that on my website that will lead you to in the link descriptions below. Okay, sourdough bread. Now, according to Monash University, the levels of fructose in sourdough bread are reduced during the sourdough fermentation process. This is because the yeast ferment the fructose during the natural leavening process, which rises the bread. So typically, the dough should be allowed to rise for about 12 hours, which in my recipes, it goes over that. I let it ferment overnight. It's delicious. It's fun to make. It's easy. And, if you make my recipe, especially my overnight sourdough bread, you'll have the perfect fermentation time. My daughter did very, very well on sourdough bread. And when she had IBS, that was the only bread besides sprouted bread. She did well on sprouted bread too, because it breaks down the inhibitors that are in the bread. And she did very well on both of those breads. And, but anything that wasn't fermented, it really hurt her stomach. And we have an ancient grain sourdough bread such as spelt or acorn bread, which I have a lot of recipes on my website for. They are the most ancient grain there is, and they're missing a lot of the genomes in them that cause allergies in people. People really thrive on these breads. They have a different molecule makeup than the gluten in modern wheat today. It's more fragile, it's more water soluble, but it's very, very easy to digest. And if you want to head over to my website or head over to this article, I show you how to make einkorn sourdough bread. And I'm telling you, it's awesome. I love it. It's the most ancient grain there is, and people do very, very well on it. Okay, kombucha. Kombucha has been found to contain fructans, which are high on the FODMAP in large amounts. So many people, including my daughter, have found kombucha to be of great help with IBS. That was huge for her. And she just had 4 to 6 ounces. Now, a full serving might have been not suitable for people when they're first starting out. You got to experiment with yourself. Some people do very well on this. Some people don't do very well at all. So it really is going to take you experimenting with your own body. But it was of great help to her. She had a lot of it. And no two people are alike. Our microbiomes are like our little fingerprints. And it's a really great way to listen to your body and see how you do. And what happens if you aren't able to have it, give it a few weeks and then try again, because often then it allows you, once you get a lot of different bacteria back into your gut, your food allergies start to go away. You're able to handle things, it starts to repair, and you find the perfect balance of what you need. But that was very crucial in helping my daughter. She always drank plain kombucha. She didn't do the fruit ones. She drank plain kombucha, and that did the best for her. And I recommend doing that too. You can buy the plain versions if you don't want to make it, because I teach people how to make it. But if you want to buy plain versions, GT Synergy has a really good one that I really recommend. And he's one of the only ones that doesn't really pasteurize his kombucha. Some of them are slightly pasteurized, and he's very pure about what he does. So I really like his. The other thing too is enzymes and supplements. Taking digestive enzymes or supplements, are really important, especially if you've got SIBO or irritable bowel syndrome, because you really need extra support when you're digesting your food. It really can help you regulate the chemical reaction in your body, and it helps you break down the food into smaller nutrient pieces that are small enough to be absorbed and carried throughout the body. So digestive enzymes help the body break down fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And in the beginning, this can be a really important thing for people suffering. I have just developed a new product because there were certain times in my life when I struggled and needed extra help. Anytime you have a lot of stress, you're going to upset your digestion. And, when I was pregnant, when I was going through menopause, I needed a little bit of extra support, and enzymes were great. Digestive enzymes were great. So much so that I've developed a formula. It's called Full Spectrum Enzymes that has all of them in them. You can also get enzymes at the store, but if you're really struggling, you don't need to take them forever because they just kind of support you when you need them, but it would be of great help to you because it's going to help you break down your food a lot easier with extra enzymes. Cultured foods have tons of enzymes in them naturally. They're naturally occurring, and that's why it's easy to digest these foods. But they also help you digest the food you eat with it. And so if you're really struggling, I would suggest taking a look at some enzymes and supplements. I sell some, but you can get them anywhere. And I have some that have, 14 different enzymes that you need to digest all of the different foods. But just listen to your body, and having a cultured food every meal is of great help too, because then you're just loading your body with enzymes. Because if you can't digest your food, you're not getting the nutrients that you need. Now, there's another food I want to talk about, miso. Miso is a fermented soy product, but it can also be made with soybeans, chickpeas. There's a lot of different types of beans that you can make miso with. But it is loaded with enzymes and microbes. And these microbes in misos, there's so many that the scientists can't even isolate them all yet. And during the fermentation process, FODMAPs are reduced. So this is huge because it's really delicious. You get lots of B vitamins, which you're going to be needing if you're struggling with IBS. And it's, when miso is fermented, it likely increases, all the B vitamins increase from the lactic acid bacteria. And this is going to boost your immune system and strengthen your microbiome. And it's also going to give you something delicious to consume as often as you like. And it's super, super easy to make. You can buy miso. It will keep for months or a year in your fridge. And just a spoonful, you can make some soup. It's going to be very soothing to the, your gut. It's going to help you. I have a lot of my miso recipe soups in there. You can do a lot of things with miso. You can make salad dressings. You can do dips and things. And I highly recommend that because it will help you heal. It's got a lot of beneficial enzymes, tons of them, and microbes in it. Another good food is coconut water kefir. That's a great one. We had a lot of that. It's super easy to make. You get water kefir crystals. You put them in coconut water, not coconut milk, coconut water, and you let it ferment for 24 hours, and then you have this wonderful, bubbly, tart drink that could help you a lot. My daughter had that a lot, and so when she was healing, and it was fantastic. So for her gut, and it took a little while to heal, but within 3 months, she noticed a huge difference. Her IBS symptoms were pretty much gone. She still had some food allergies, but after a year of eating this diet, everything was gone. All of her food allergies, all of her symptoms, and she was really thriving and really happy. So these are just some of my suggestions. I have links to all these recipes, to all these things you can do to help yourself. I know it seems overwhelming, but if you can just be strict for a little while, you'll heal. And then you're free. And then the chains fall off and you can live your life normally. And you just need to watch what you eat. And in the beginning, be super strict because you'll get better faster and you'll do better. And actually, these foods are delicious. I have lots of recipes to help you because there's no way to live your life feeling bad. I mean, you don't know what you're missing by not feeling good. And I want to help you to find a way to not only heal, but to work with your body so you'll never forget it. You'll always know the things that you can do to help it. It's such a fantastic thing to, be able to understand how your body works and to help it because it changes your whole life. And it changed mine in such a dramatic way because it allowed me to do things I never thought I would do. And I want that for you because you deserve to be well. Wellness is your birthright. And I want you to understand that this vessel we live in, it's important to take care of it. You're the captain of your ship, and you got to steer wisely, and that determines the foods that you eat and the things that you do. So once again, I appreciate you guys listening to me and taking time out of your busy day. I hope it helps you, and I hope it encourages you to find the healing that you so deserve. Have a great week, guys. I appreciate you.